In the number 10 spot is Daniel Lind Lagerlof. The Swedish director disappeared while scouting locations for a film and was presumed dead after his body was never found. His case has never been solved, and how he disappeared still remains a mystery, although authorities do have a good guess of what might have happened. The 42-year-old was scouting locations with 2 crew members, and one of them was at a nature reserve located along the cliffs of Sweden's west coast. The 3 of them split up from each other while exploring, but Daniel never returned to the group as planned, and that is when they called the cops. The weather was bad that day and had very heavy rain with strong winds. Police carried out a thorough search using helicopters and dogs, but had no luck. They came up with the assumption that the director slipped and fell into the sea, but that has never been confirmed. We still don't know what exactly happened. Coming in at number 9 is Bynes Dell, real name Brian Williams. The former NBA player was living out the dream playing for the Chicago Bulls before he walked away from the team to live a normal life and travel across the world. It was back in July of 2002 when he set off at sea in Tahiti on his boat with his brother Kevin, his girlfriend Serena, and the boat's captain Bertrand Saldo. Everyone on the boat had disappeared with no explanation. Everyone except for his brother Kevin. It wasn't until a week later that the boat was spotted, but had been renamed and re-registered. 2 months after the disappearance, a man claiming to be Brian went into a Phoenix coin shop and had his passport and credit cards in possession and attempted to purchase $500,000 worth of gold coins. His brother Kevin, the only survivor, said his side of the story and claimed that he and his brother started fighting, and Bison's girlfriend tried to stop it, and they accidentally knocked her down and she hit her head and died from the injuries. He said once she was dead, the captain said the boat had to return to the port so that he could report the death, and that is when Bison allegedly beat him to death with a wrench. After that, he claims that he shot his brother Byson out of self-defense. He said he weighted down their bodies with bodybuilder weights that were on board and then just sailed on. People believe though that it was all a part of his brother's plan, and that is why he kept his ID and also renamed the boat. His brother Kevin ended up killing himself, so this entire story remains a mystery and their bodies were never found. Up next, number 8 is John Bingham, aka Lord Lucan. In 1974, Britain was captivated by the brutal murder of a woman named Sandra Rivet and the disappearance of the main suspect, Lord Lucan. Sandra was actually his nanny, and after she was found brutally murdered, Lord Lucan was never found again. Ever since the incident, he has been spotted more than 70 times, but the sightings were never confirmed. In January of this year, Sandra's son claimed he found Lord Lucan in Australia, but the sighting never led to anything. Lord Lucan's friend, James Wilson, said he had actually planned to murder his wife and hide her body, but it was dark and he accidentally killed their nanny thinking that it was her. His wife, Lady Lucan, was also stabbed in the process by a hitman, but she was able to escape. People suspect that he is still alive to this day. As for his wife, she actually passed away in 2017 at 80 years old, and one of the last interviews she did, she said she believed that her ex, or husband at the time, had taken his own life. Rolling into spot number 7 is Michael Rockefeller. He was 23 years old at the time of his disappearance, and he was the privileged son of the New York governor, Nelson Rockefeller. Michael was a photographer and an art collector like his dad, and decided to make a scouting trip to an island off the coast of Australia. He wanted to collect the art of the Asmat people who resided there. He and his researching team and photographers explored the village, and allegedly some of the Asmat people were not okay with the whole thing. Michael learned at the time that Asmat warriors would often take the heads off of their enemies and would eat their flesh. Some believe that this is what happened to Michael. He had written everything he learned in his diary, which was later found. However, the boat that he was on when continuing his journey had capsized, so authorities reported his death as drowning, though they never found his body. It is still unclear what happened, and maybe it's best that we don't know the details in case he was actually eaten by a tribe. Cruising into number 6, we have Richie Edwards. The rock star was the guitarist for Manic Street Preachers when he disappeared in 1995 at the age of 27. On the day of his disappearance, he checked out of his hotel in London first thing in the morning and drove to Wales. That is where the trail goes cold, and he just disappeared off the face of the earth, or so it appeared. His car was found, but his body had never been recovered. He was declared dead officially in November 2008 with the assumptions that he had taken his own life. But since then there have been rumored sightings and people believe he is still alive and actually staged his own death. In 2019, a book was written about his mysterious death and included evidence that suggests he is still alive. A woman came forward saying that she had given him a haircut and said, "He's actually living in a kibbutz in Israel, everybody knows." However, he is still listed as a missing person and the case remains open to this day. Alright guys, we have made it halfway through and we have Lisa Nova. After she graduated from the University of Colorado, she headed to Hollywood to chase her dream as an actor. Along the way, she was introduced to YouTube and she started her own comedy channel in 2006. A casting director from Mad TV saw one of her YouTube videos and asked her to audition for the show, which she ended up starring on while doing her YouTube channel at the same time. But then in 2009, she founded Maker Studios with her brother, and in 2011, she just stopped making videos for her channel. Literally, just stopped. Disney ended up buying Maker Studio in 2014, and she hasn't been heard of since. Sounds like she was like hella successful. I'm like confused. I mean, she obviously made money off that buy, but... Here now at number 4 is Dax Flame. In the late 2000s, he was a popular YouTuber known for his exaggerated comedic vlogs. He was bringing in hundreds of thousands of views at the time, but then he randomly just stopped posting and would only post a couple times a year on very random occasions. He seemed to have shifted his focus because in 2014 he published a book called I'm Just Sitting on a Fence. His real name isn't Dax though, it's actually Madison Pichler, and we saw him pop up in a few major movies like 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street and Another Evil, but we haven't seen him in any movies since 2016, and he has also been quiet on the YouTube front as well, so not totally sure what he's getting up to these days. As in the last 4 years. Not just days, that's a lot of days. In the third spot is Mac Freeman. This guy was pulling in millions of views back in the day after he created his channel called Waste Time Chasing Cars. He started the channel in 2006 and it soon became the platform for comedy short videos. Then in 2008, his videos titled Kobe Bryant Can't Jump Like Me and Lightsabers Are Fun went viral and he just skyrocketed into fame. But then in 2012, he suddenly stopped uploading videos. His last YouTube video has comments flooding it, asking what happened, and his vanishing act has been a hot topic on Reddit, with people debating what happened. Many fans were hoping that like years down the road he would like resurface by now, but he hasn't. He has actually not posted video on his channel in 7 years. Taking over the number 2 spot is Hannah Minx. She was one of the first of her kind when she created her unique channel called Miss Hannah Minx. She would dress up as an anime character and give Japanese lessons. Her first video to go viral in 2009 was when she filmed a vlog about bicycles in Tokyo that amassed tons of views and sent her into stardom. She was in her prime when she randomly disappeared in 2013 from her channel and all of her social media pages. Like literally just gone. Because her social media went silent as well, rumors started spreading that she was missing or dead. Like literally. But then a Redditor provided screenshots from her personal Facebook page years down the road under a different name, Hannah Osterhagen. According to the screenshot, she left her career behind to get married and have children. At least say bye. In our number 1 spot is Kyle Myers. Alright guys, I saved this one for last because it is a crazy story. He first joined YouTube in 2010 and quickly rose to fame for his character called Dmitry Potapov. His character talked about guns in a so-called Russian accent and was featured on FPS Russia, which was one of the top 10 most subscribed channels at that time. He worked alongside a gun shop owner named Keith Ratliff, but went solo after Keith was allegedly shot dead in his gun shop in 2013, which by the way, the murder case is still unsolved. Just want to point that out. Kyle continued with the channel on his own after the unsolved murder was not solved, but then it became inactive all of a sudden in 2016. It literally was radio silence and people were really confused. But then he resurfaced in 2017 after reports claimed that he had been arrested on felony drug charges. The police report said they confiscated drugs and numerous weapons, which was obviously no surprise since all he did was talk about guns, but that unsolved murder case, dough.
At number 10, Connie Converse. Connie Converse is known as the first singer-songwriter, but she's also known for her mysterious and unsolved disappearance. Her ballads were deep, raw, and emotional, and many say that her artistry came before its time. She began her music career in the 50s, and during this time, the most popular hits were from rock and roll or jazz artists, as these genres dominated that era. Connie's dream of becoming a famous musician suffered because she wasn't finding the success that she was hoping for, and this deeply affected her. She recorded a set of songs in 1954 in one of her friends' kitchens, and they all hoped for the best for Connie, but nothing ever came from it. She decided to quit music altogether in 1961, so she dropped everything and moved from New York to Michigan, where she took a job at a university. Being that she never got to work in music like she had hoped, she was never fulfilled by her career, and by the 70s she was severely depressed and saw herself as a failure. In 1974, she told her friends she was leaving to have a fresh start. She packed her bags and her car and left, and then she was never seen again. Some believe that she may have taken her own life, but since she vanished without a trace, we may never know. At number 9, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This one goes out to all of my French immersion buddies who had to read Le Petit Prince in school. I feel you guys. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry was a French author famous for the book Le Petit Prince. His elegance and symbolism in his writing was renowned by all, and personally, I'll never forget his messages in his work. I see the baobabs, you know? Those baobabs, never forget. But he was more than just a writer, he was a pilot as well, and he fought in World War II. As a skilled pilot in his heyday, he joined the military to fight alongside the Allied forces and defend the skies, but things went awry. During some of his missions, his piloting skills proved more harmful than helpful, and he was involved in many crashes, but was for the most part able to walk away from them unscathed. That is until July 31st, 1944. On another one of his missions, Antoine disappeared somewhere over the Mediterranean Sea. For a long time, no one knew what happened to him, as he was presumed dead. The wreckage from his plane was found in 2000, but his body was never recovered. Before I go any further, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video. It really means a lot to us when you share your positive feedback, and your likes help our channel grow, so please give us a like if you're enjoying the video so far. At number 8, Richie Edwards. Manic Street Preachers guitarist Richie Edwards was every angsty kid's idol back in the mid-90s. Richie was known for his eccentric yet moody vibes and was referred to as a quote, lightning rod of sorts for adolescent angst. Richie was also known for his public stunts. On one occasion during an interview with NME, a journalist implied to Richie that he and his band's behavior and image was insincere and inauthentic, and that their stunts were fake. To prove them wrong, the British musician carved the words "for real" into his arm. If that doesn't scream authenticity, I don't know what does. Now, when Richie disappeared from the public eye back in February 1995, people just thought he was up to his old tricks again, staging some kind of disappearance and would come back at some point, but sadly that never happened. He and the band's frontrunner were due to travel to the US together, but when it was discovered that Richie had disappeared from his hotel room, that's when things got serious. His car was later found abandoned next to a bridge, but he was never found. They legally declared Richie dead in 2008, but a body has never been found. At number 7, Joe Pichler. Joe Pichler was a child actor famous for his roles in Beethoven and Varsity Blues. He lived and worked in LA for a few years, taking acting jobs until about 2002, when his family asked him to move back to his hometown of Bremerton, Washington. When he returned home, he finished high school and had plans to return to Hollywood, though that never happened. As time went on, Joe became depressed and unhappy with his living situation. He inherited money from his trust fund at the age of 18 and bought his own residence, but also began experimenting with illegal substances, and some believe that this is what led to his disappearance. Joe was last seen on February 5th, 2006, though his family didn't report him missing until about a week later. During the police investigation into his disappearance, his car was found abandoned behind a restaurant with no sign of Joe. It was later thought that he had probably taken his own life by jumping off a bridge into the Port Madison Narrows, though no sign of him was ever found there either. His disappearance was never solved, and his family have no idea what could have happened to him. At number 6, Bynes Deli. Bynes Deli, born Brian Carson Williams, was a successful NBA player in the 90s. Though he was talented and successful, Deli quit his basketball career when he retired just before the 1999/2000 season was about to begin. From there, he sort of became a nomad. He left the US and first ended up in Lebanon. From there, he traveled through Asia and ended up in Australia, where he lived for a while and learned how to sail. In 2002, Deli decided that he would set sail to Hawaii with his girlfriend, his brother, and the captain of their ship. Sadly, the group never made it to Hawaii. Deli, the ship's captain, and Deli's girlfriend all vanished at sea, leaving Deli's brother as the only survivor. Deli's brother was later arrested for trying to buy gold with his brother's checks and was put behind bars, only to take his own life upon release. No one really knows what happened to the basketball star or the others on that boat, but it is believed that Deli's brother, fueled by jealousy of his brother's fortune, killed the other 3 members on board and dumped their bodies into the Pacific Ocean.
Number 5. Meg Ryan. At one point, Meg Ryan served up some of America's best and most memorable romantic comedies, and then one day she just seemed to disappear from the spotlight. It would all come after her marriage started to crumble, and then the headlines started to smear her name as they claimed she cheated on her husband while she was on set of Proof of Life. After the star cheated on her husband to get with Russell Crowe, she would find it really hard going forward to find work. Now, the actor wouldn't exactly disappear, but she has preferred to keep a low profile these days. And when she does work on set, most of her work is actually behind the camera as a producer and a director, which is honestly disappointing as her face deserves to be seen in front of the screen. Number 4. Drake Bell. Drake Bell used to be a major heartthrob in the 90s, but after he was accused of endangerment charges towards a younger person after a female victim claimed that she met him online and that he made unwanted advances towards her, he would then plead guilty, and every door in Hollywood would start to close the door on him. Eventually, the star would take to Instagram to address his recklessness and irresponsible text when he issued an apology to his fans, but then he also went on to claim that he wasn't telling us the claims were false, but that the state of Ohio actually proved that the claims were false. And if the claims were true, he wouldn't be at home with his wife and son. But then later, even Josh Peck would call out Drake Bell, and he would speak about their longtime feud that started when Drake called out the star for not being invited to his wedding. But pretty much, Drake then went on to say some hurtful things, and Josh even asked the star to apologize to his wife. Today, Drake has tried everything to stay away from the spotlight, but it just seems his name every now and then keeps getting smeared across the headlines. Number 3. Felicity Huffman. After the college admission scandal rocked the world, largely because big-name celebrities were embroiled in the scheme, one of the most notable people caught in the falsifying documents was Felicity Huffman. And since she has avoided making public appearances, compared to other celebrities caught in the scandal, Felicity's legal woes seem to be far less severe because she took the responsibility for her actions in a guilty plea where she expressed genuine remorse. She then went on to serve 11 days of her 14-day jail sentence and paid a $30,000 fine and was required to work 250 hours of community service for paying $15,000 to save her daughter's SAT scores. After gaining sympathy from the public instead of rushing back to rebuild her Hollywood career, she has since been focused on helping others. Number 2. Lori Loughlin. Following the college admission scheme, Lori would find her name being embroiled within the mess, and with it, she would be ousted by Hallmark's parent company, Crown Media, after she was charged with conspiracy to commit mail fraud in connection with the scheme. When Lori appeared in court and was released on a $1 million bail, it would then be revealed that she and her husband agreed to pay $500,000 to guarantee that 2 of their daughters got into the University of Southern California as members of the road team, even though neither of them were athletes. The scandal would then impact Lori's career as Crown Media would announce it was cutting ties with the Full House star. Now, Lori was able to reprise her role in a Hallmark Christmas spinoff just after, but other than that, no one's been throwing roles her way, and it's probably for a good reason, as you can't cheat your way through life just because you have money. And coming in number 1 today, we have Thomas Gibson. In August of 2016, Thomas Gibson would be involved in an on-set altercation with Virgil Williams, a writer and producer of the show Criminal Minds. While Thomas was directing an episode of the show, he apparently kicked Williams and was initially suspended for 2 episodes. Thomas would then release his own statement by saying, "There were creative differences on set and a disagreement. I regret that occurred. We all want to work together as a team to make the best show possible. We always have and always will." Later that week, ABC Studios and CBS would then announce that Thomas had been ultimately fired, and it would then be stated that this wasn't his first altercation on the set, as he was even forced to attend anger management classes in the past. When the studio realized it wasn't helping, they ultimately made the decision so they could keep everyone on set safe because he just couldn't keep his hands to himself.
Starting off at number 10, we've Rick Moranis. Rick was a major comedy star in the 80s, best known for starring in the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. However, he decided to leave Hollywood in 1991 because his wife Anne sadly died of cancer. He was left as a single father to 2 children and put acting on the back burner to raise his kids. After filming 1997's Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, Rick officially left Hollywood to focus on raising his kids full time. He has voice acted in a handful of roles since, but he's mostly stayed off screen. But it looks like his hiatus might be coming to an end soon, as there are talks to add another installment to the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. The film is called Shrunk, with Josh Gad playing his son, and it's currently in pre-production on IMDb, so I'm sure we're going to be seeing it soon. Also, make sure to like the video if you're liking it so far. In at number 9, Kris Humphries. Kris Humphries was a professional basketball star and briefly a reality TV star when he was married to Kim Kardashian. The Minneapolis-born athlete played for 9 different professional teams during his career, and he was a pretty low-key player in the league, of course, until the Kardashians got involved. And he became one of the top stars in the tabloids, with the Kardashian affiliation even getting him heckled on court. The pair got married, then divorced 72 days later, which of course didn't help the media circus. Kris ended up retiring from the NBA, and he moved back home and started franchising fast casual restaurants. And he's remained out of the spotlight ever since. In at number 8, Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn is of course the legendary old Hollywood actress known for Breakfast at Tiffany's, along with many other iconic films. Her style also influenced the fashion trends of the next few decades. And even though she was a massive star, many people forget that she retired just a few years after her career peaked. During her acting days, Hepburn worked with UNICEF, crediting them with assisting her as a child in the war-torn Netherlands. Then when she retired in 1988, she became an official ambassador, and she used her fame to help people and bring attention to charities and human rights issues. In at number 7, Jamie Lynn Spears. Jamie Lynn Spears is best known for her role as Zoe in the hit show Zoe 101, but she left her career and the height of her fame to become a mother, as she became pregnant shortly after she stopped filming the show at the age of 16. She walked away from fame in an attempt to escape the scrutiny, and years later she shared her thought process at the time with Glamour. She said, quote, "I just wanted to get away from it as much as I could, to just go away and be a mom and figure out what I wanted, and to earn a sense of respect back for myself. Move to a town in the middle of nowhere and just raise my child. All I could be was a good mother." She's now married with 2 children and has not been in the spotlight since. And at number 6, Frankie Muniz. Please tell me I'm not the only one that had a huge crush on Frankie Muniz when they were growing up. Hopefully not just me. Frankie Muniz was a tween star best known for Malcolm in the Middle, but after he became mega famous as a teenager, he decided to leave acting to pursue another career. He ended up becoming a race car driver, and he had a lot of success too. In 2006, he joined Jensen Motorsport as a race car driver, and according to People, he competed in the Champ Car World Series. He also made his way to the highly televised Las Vegas Grand Prix. Frankie has said that he would go back to acting for Malcolm in the Middle reboot, and he did star in a few seasons of Dancing with the Stars. But he's mostly stayed away from the spotlight since his tween stardom.
In at number 5, Jack Gleeson. Jack Gleeson is an Irish actor that received critical acclaim for playing the role of Joffrey Baratheon in the HBO series Game of Thrones. Jack began acting at the age of 8 in the Independent Theatre Workshop, and when asked why he stopped acting at the height of his career, Gleeson told Entertainment Weekly that he just wasn't enjoying it anymore. In the interview, he said, "The answer isn't interesting or long-winded. I've been acting since age 8. I just stopped enjoying it as much as I used to, and now there's the prospect of doing it for a living, whereas up until now it was always something I did for recreation with my friends or in the summer for some fun. I enjoyed it, and when you make a living from something, it changes your relationship with it. It's not like I hate it, it's just not what I want to do. He will be sorely missed." Not Joffrey though, I hated that character. In at number 4, Sean Connery. Sean Connery without a doubt will always be James Bond to me, thanks to a run as the character from 1962 to 1983 that saw him starring in 7 films as a secret agent 007. By 1999, People magazine had declared him as the sexiest man of the century, and then to cap it all off, he was knighted in 2000. That's a great decade for him. One of his last big box office films that he did though was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in 2003. However, the film was not very well received and was mostly a commercial failure. I still loved it. Following this film, he kept fairly quiet about his future plans until revealing in 2006 that he had retired from acting. After accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the American Film Institute, Connery told the crowd, "I have retired for good. It's been a bit rough since Christmas, but I'm perfectly okay and I feel well. In fact, I'm working on a history book." History written by Sean Connery. I'd read that. In at number 3, Angus Jones. Angus Jones is perhaps best known for playing Jake Harper in the CBS sitcom 2.5 Men, for which he won 2 Young Artist Awards and a TV Land Award. The show was the most popular sitcom in the US with an average audience of around 15 million people. By 2010 though, he was the highest paid child star in television at just 17 years old. In 2012, Jones had turned 18 and really started to feel awkward with the new adult storylines that he was doing for the show. As a result of growing up, the writers could no longer give him these childish lines and innocent mannerisms that Jake was so well known for. By November of 2012, Angus said that he had been baptized and no longer wanted to appear on the show anymore. He even went as far as saying that the show is filth and thus conflicted with his newfound religious views. In at number 2, Carly Schroeder. Not too many people would probably even recognize Carly today, but way back she was best known for her recurring role on the Disney Channel series Lizzie McGuire. Originally booking it as a one-time appearance, she ended up shooting 12 episodes of the show and also appeared in the Lizzie McGuire movie in 2003 in the same role. Unlike most people though, Carly took a completely different route from retiring from acting. In February of 2019, Schroeder announced that she would be joining the United States Army. She then attended the Officer Candidate School and planned on working as an officer in the Military Intelligence Corps. She also received her commission as a second lieutenant on September 20th, 2019. Carly also explained during an interview with Business Insider that she didn't really talk about her time as an actress so that she could blend in and have people not treat her differently. Probably a good move. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes rose to prominence in Hollywood as a child star in the late 1990s and early 2000s on Nickelodeon through the sketch comedy series called All That, which then led to her own spin-off series titled The Amanda Show. From there, her career seemed to be on the right path according to Hollywood rules. She was now starring in some bigger feature films, but because her life had been in the spotlight for so long, her downfalls were also highly publicized. She began to struggle with substance abuse and her legal issues, resulting in a hiatus from acting in 2010. She attempted to make a comeback in 2018, but nothing really happened, and thus she began to disappear from Hollywood. Probably for the best.
Starting us off at number 10 is Onision. His real name is James Jackson, but he became known for his online personality, Onision. He had success on all 3 of his YouTube channels, gaining over 5 million subscribers and tons of followers on social media. But then he landed in some hot water after he was accused of sexual abuse and grooming. He's married to his husband Kai, who's also been accused of similar behavior, and they have 2 young children together. An investigation was opened against him after serious claims surfaced, and the FBI announced that they opened the case and are reviewing the video content evidence that was sent to them. Since then, he left the world of YouTube and went over to create an OnlyFans account, where his page is filled, literally, with pornographic images and videos. No, I don't have one, I don't physically know this myself, but it is all over the internet. He does pop up on his YouTube account like randomly, but no one really knows what he and his family are doing these days. By the sounds of it, I don't think we want to know. Up next, number 9 is Kev Jumba. His real name is Kevin Wu, and he is one of the most mysterious vanishing acts in YouTube history. Back in 2008, his online name Kev Jumba had the 3rd most subscribed channel on the platform thanks to his blogs and music video parodies. As his career went on, he got involved in other parts of the industry like acting, but that part of his career was short-lived. In 2015, it was reported that he was hit by a car in LA and that he broke his spine and his lungs collapsed. So his videos went silent for a while and no one really knew what happened. Turns out that he actually checked himself into a mental health facility because the injury sent him into a depression. During that time, rumors were spreading saying that he had joined a cult. Like, this huge rumor literally was that he joined a cult and vanished. But he later said that the Buddhist organizations that he did get involved with were not a cult at all. Rolling into number 8 is Daddy05. A couple named Mike and Heather Martin created a channel called Daddy05 where they vlogged their life with their 5 children. In their videos, they filmed pranks that they would pull on their children, but then people started to complain and they were soon facing child abuse charges. They had their kids taken away from them and their real mother was granted full custody of them. The couple was also charged and their sentences were reduced to 5 years of probation for child neglect. After the scandal settled down, their channel was deleted, so they made numerous attempts to create new channels, but YouTube just kept removing them. They've disappeared from the platform and no one really knows what they are up to. Apparently they did try to create a website where they uploaded their vlogs, like their YouTube videos, but on a website since YouTube didn't allow it, but that violated their terms of probation and they had to take them down. They're not giving up, clearly. Sliding into spot number 7 is Ray William Johnson. For many years, he basically was YouTube. He was the creator of the popular channel called =3, which landed him as the most subscribed YouTuber on a number of occasions. He also took the prize of being one of the most viewed channels on the entire platform for some of the months. But in 2014, he decided it was time to quit, and he just up and left the channel. Later on, people realized that he continued to act as the producer of the channel, as well as producing some other web series called Buzz Lightyear, Comedians On, and Top 6. The series all started with some success, but 2 of them were cancelled later on. He then got into film and became a co-creator to his own film production company, which is pretty cool. But overall, his career just seemed to kind of fade out in comparison to his time on YouTube. Now apparently you can find him creating his own music and doing some vlogs, but his decision to leave YouTube is still something that not many people understand. We don't really get why or what happened, and his career has been kind of hard to keep up with ever since. It just kind of seems like he's just trying new things all the time. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to stay in spotlight. Moving on to number 6, we have Charles Ross. The YouTuber who is known for his channel Ross Creations was once ranking in the views and subscribers until he got arrested for some of his content. People loved his content because all he did was pull ridiculous pranks on random people and film it. And some of them were innocently funny, but then he went too far by impersonating a cop. He dressed up as a cop and wrote a fake ticket to a woman while she was with her 2 children. He wrote her a ticket for parking, but once she realized that she was parked legally, she got angry and started questioning his credentials, which he obviously couldn't prove, so then she called the real cops and he ran. He was arrested and jailed, but then he was released on bond for $10,000. Since then, his YouTube channel has been quiet, as in no videos at all. Halfway through the list, at number 5 is Cameron Diaz. Back in 2014, she was one of the most sought out female celebrities in the game. She was appearing in tons of magazines and taking the lead in comedy rom-coms. But then she suddenly disappeared from the limelight and was no longer showing up on our screens. It wasn't until 2018 when she admitted to Entertainment Weekly that she had officially retired from acting. Fans were shocked at first, but later found out that she went on to have a more quiet family life. She got married to Benji Madden and they had a little girl, so her attention and priorities completely switched, as it would for a lot of new mothers. Reports say that having a baby was one of the main reasons why she left Hollywood. Reports claim that they were trying to get pregnant for a while and nothing was working. But fans did get a nice surprise recently when she did a Skype interview with Jimmy Fallon where she talked about being a mom and what she is up to these days. Taking over the number 4 spot is Jack Gleeson. The young actor played King Joffrey in the hit TV series Game of Thrones, but then announced he would be retiring after its 4th season. Despite being just a teenager when he started the show, he has hinted at retirement on more than one occasion. But in 2019, it became official. He spoke with Entertainment Weekly and said that he's been acting since he was 8 years old and doesn't enjoy it anymore like he used to. He said, "Up until now, acting was always something I did for recreation with my friends or in the summer for some fun. I enjoyed it. When you make a living from something, it changes your relationship with it. It's not like I hate it, it's just not what I want to do." After he left, he moved back home to his family and joined a Dublin-based theatre company called Collapsing Horse. So he's still acting in some way. Making her way into number 3 is Mara Wilson. If you watched the movie Matilda when you were a kid, then you quickly fell in love with the title character and hoped that she would be your friend and teach you all of her cool magic tricks. The movie is a cult classic, and the actress behind the iconic character, Mara Wilson, had a very successful career lined up for her. But just a few years after the movie was released, Mara decided to quit the biz. Many people couldn't understand her decision and reasoning, so down the road she wrote a book called Where Am I Now? The Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame. After leaving Hollywood and growing her personal life, she found a passion for writing and started writing her own novels. She now lives a very normal life, but said that sometimes she will act in smaller projects with her friends. In spot number 2 is Freddie Prinze Jr. The actor was popping up in movies all over the place between 1998 to 2003, but then just disappeared without much reasoning for it. He did try to make big comebacks, but his last big screen appearance was in 2008. He was a huge heartthrob in the 90s and won multiple Teen Choice Awards for his roles. But it seemed like his career had lost some momentum, and he ended up trading in his movie career for a family. He married actress Sarah Michelle Gellar, who also retired from Hollywood, and now they have 2 children together and have changed their career paths. When asked if he would return to acting, he said, "I love being a full-time father. To remove myself from that equation would not be a good thing. I'm basically retired." After acting, he turned his focus on cooking and now has his own cookbooks, which I thought was very random. We have made it to number 1, and we have Amanda Bynes. She had everything she needed as a young star to climb to the top. She seemed passionate about her work and was determined to keep her success going. Fans absolutely adored her in every role that she took on. But then everything sort of took a turn and fans no longer saw her on their screens. Articles started surfacing showing she had been struggling with substance abuse and was getting in trouble with the law, being arrested for DUIs and other minor crimes. She was in and out of treatment center for years and fans were hoping that she would find her way back. But her struggles actually go deeper than just drugs. Reports say that she struggles with mental illness and has been trying to find treatments for it. In recent years, she's been able to turn her life around, working hard to get an education. She recently received a degree in fashion after studying at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles, and her lawyer said that she's thinking about creating her own clothing and perfume line.
Starting off our list today at number 10, we have Kanye West. After causing quite a stir in Hollywood, Kanye then went on to disappear, and everyone's been wondering where he could have taken off to. Billboard would then later publish an article that would state Kanye's former lawyers even spent months trying to track the star down, and it wasn't an easy process as Kanye had changed his phone number in the hopes of staying hidden. After being tracked down by his attorneys, they then went on to drop Kanye as a client. Just a few weeks after, Kanye would then be caught out in the public as he was spotted with a mystery woman. But the star has tried to remain out of the spotlight as much as he can. The public has since been led to assume that the real reason Kanye has gone into hiding is because of his financial woes, and he's also been running from a lawsuit that his ex-business managers have filed. Either way, it's probably best that he stays out of the spotlight at this time. Number 9. Armie Hammer. After Armie Hammer fell from grace, the former actor would disappear from the spotlight after facing some serious allegations from his former ex-girlfriends, claiming that he had these cannibalism fetishes. And there was even some accusations that Armie made unwanted gestures towards the woman. The first series of allegations were launched against the star in 2021, but until the release of the 2022 Discovery true crime docu-series House of Hammer that was released, the matters behind the accusations remained relatively quiet as the actor retreated from the spotlight following the allegations. Armie then tried to keep a low profile, and after going to rehab, it was later said that the actor was residing in the Cayman Islands alongside his estranged wife Elizabeth Chambers and their 2 young children. At the same time, it would also be rumored that the actor was working at a hotel on the island after he was cut off from his family's fortune. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 8, we have Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. From starring in many TV shows and movies to their fashion business, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen could be seen everywhere in the late 90s all the way to the early 2000s, but somewhere along the way, the twins just slowly started to disappear from the spotlight, and no one has heard a thing from the famous duo in years. Then out of nowhere in 2014, they would announce that they were retiring from acting, and they eventually launched 2 fashion lines called The Row and Elizabeth and James, which they still even own today, even following the controversies that followed the line. As in 2015, several of The Row's former interns took the company to court asking for payment for work they did on Mary-Kate and Ashley's fashion label. According to the lawsuit, The Row's interns were forced to work up to 50-hour weeks doing the same work as some of the full-time employees of their fashion line. Yet the lawsuit lead plaintiff then claimed the interns were also treated very poorly by the Olsen's company. Even with the lawsuit, there still isn't much buzz about the brand these days compared to when they first launched the companies, and that's probably because the clothes just aren't that nice and you pay $5,000 just to wear a sheet when you can go to Walmart and buy that sheet for $5. Number 7. Cameron Diaz. Former Hollywood it girl Cameron Diaz was on the road to have a very successful career, but then out of nowhere she slowly started to disappear from the entertainment industry, and it would slowly start to happen after fans started to claim that she was actually pretty rude to interact with. While Cameron has claimed that she left Hollywood on her own terms by telling In Style in 2019, "I've given more than half of my life to the public. I feel like that's okay for me to take this time for myself." Her statement would come just after Hollywood pretty much closed their doors on her. While the star has since been enjoying her time away from the spotlight, in 2020 she did announce the birth of her daughter, and she's been focusing her free time on being an amazing mother. Number 6. Amanda Bynes. I honestly miss seeing Amanda Bynes on the big screen because as a child, I really just couldn't wait to get home to watch the Amanda Bynes show or any of the movies she starred in like She's a Man, Sydney White, and Hairspray. Amanda was seriously one of the most talented child stars and one of Nickelodeon's best success stories, who managed to turn that into a thriving movie career. But then out of nowhere she started to struggle around 2012 after the star was charged with driving under the influence and then charged with 2 hit and runs. She would then spend 3 years under probation. Just when we thought the star was done spiraling out of control, her troubles with the law continued long afterwards, and it eventually became clear that she was suffering from some type of underlying issues like Britney Spears endured when she ended up under a conservatorship. Today it seems like Amanda is happy and back on track as she's now studying to be a nail tech, and shortly we should see her in the salon doing some amazing work.
Halfway through at number 5, Daniel Lind Lagerlof. Daniel Lind Lagerlof was a Swedish writer and director who vanished in 2011. It is said that Daniel had ventured out to scout locations at a nature reserve in southern Sweden for an upcoming project. The reserve he went to is known by some as an area that's pretty out in the open. It's a very windy, flat area surrounded by water, so it would be very hard to get lost there. Somehow Daniel did get lost because after leaving his group and going out alone to scout the area, he never returned and was never seen again. Since the area is surrounded by water, the reigning theory as to what happened to the director is that he probably slipped and fell into the water, though his body has never been found. At number 4, Rico Harris. Rico Harris was a famously tall basketball player who played for the Harlem Globetrotters. Though his basketball career was relatively short, he still gained notoriety, landing him some celebrity status among some sports fans. What took him from his basketball career was his battle with alcoholism. Close to the time of his disappearance, he was working as a security guard in LA. In 2014, shortly before he vanished, he was fired from his job for being under the influence at work. The last time anyone saw him was when he left his mom's house in LA to drive up to Seattle to see his girlfriend, but he never made it there. His car was found abandoned outside of Sacramento and his personal belongings were also found, but Rico seemed to have vanished into thin air. He was known to disappear for days on end when on a binge, but this time was different because according to those close to him, he was in a quote, weird mental state. The most popular theory as to what happened to the basketball star is that he was probably picked up as a hitchhiker, but the rest remains unknown. At number 3, Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn was the son of actor Errol Flynn, who was famous for his swashbuckling roles in films. Sean had always seemed to live in his father's shadow, and according to those who knew him, he was always looking to branch out and become his own man. Sean tried acting but never truly found success in that avenue. It wasn't until the Vietnam War erupted that he found his calling, and journalism became the next thing on Sean's list. He signed up to be a photojournalist for Time, and he found a lot of success. His photography was renowned and his shots gained him a lot of notoriety, but this fame was sadly short-lived. On April 6, 1970, he and another photojournalist ventured out to get some shots of a nearby army checkpoint when they vanished. The two never came back and no trace was found of either of them. It is believed that they were captured, but there is very little evidence to put any kind of story together. They were pronounced dead, though their bodies were never found. At number 2, Ozzy Osbourne. British singer Ozzy Osbourne went missing for a brief time in 2016. He was reported missing shortly after his wife Sharon kicked him out for having an alleged affair with a hairstylist. After being kicked out, he reportedly went to a hotel but was later found to be missing. When looking for the singer, the Osbourne family contacted the woman whom Ozzy had been seeing, only to find out that she hadn't shown up for work. They say that Ozzy had a history of going missing for days on end, then turning back up as if nothing happened, but they were still worried about him since they feared for his sobriety, something that Ozzy had been battling for many years. Ozzy was later found and he returned home to life as usual, but it was still a rough couple days for the family as they searched and worried for the singer. Finally at number 1, Jim Sullivan. Jim Sullivan was a folk rock musician from Los Angeles who was famous in the 1960s/early 70s. As an up-and-coming musician, Jim was known to always carry his guitar with him and was looking for his next big gig. When that moment finally came and Jim got his big break, he packed up his car and told his friends that he was headed to Nashville for a gig. Unfortunately, he never made it there. In March of 1975, Jim was reported missing when his car was found abandoned in the desert. There was no sign of Jim anywhere, and his personal belongings were later found in a motel. Jim had vanished without a trace. Though his disappearance is still shrouded in mystery, there are some theorists who believe that he was taken by some kind of cosmic being. As Jim had previously released an album called UFO, on which he detailed driving to the desert and being abducted by aliens, this became the widely believed explanation for his disappearance, since his case was so eerily similar to his music content. Though no one really knows what happened to Jim Sullivan, this alien theory is the prominent guess.
In at number 10, Geena Davis. Geena Davis has received numerous accolades for her acting work in both film and television, and is noted for her portrayals of strong and authentic female characters, as well as her involvement in advocacy for women in the industry. When she won her first Oscar in 1988 for The Accidental Tourist, Geena became a massive star in Hollywood. She went on to do back-to-back roles in hits like Beetlejuice and Thelma and Louise. When the early 2000s rolled around though, Geena decided to step away from acting because the roles she was getting lacked complexity and the projects just weren't that interesting. Instead, she decided to start the Geena Davis Institute on Gender and Media in 2004 to increase the presence of female representation in film and television. She did make a comeback though when she joined a documentary called This Changes Everything, as well as the Netflix female wrestling comedy called Glow. In at number 9, Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan began her acting career in 1981 with minor roles before she joined the cast of the CBS soap opera called As the World Turns the following year. After that, she began to appear in a variety of supporting roles throughout the 1980s in big box office films such as Top Gun and When Harry Met Sally. By 1989, Meg Ryan had gained widespread attention for receiving her first Golden Globe nomination, which just really established her as an internationally known actor. When it came to romantic comedy flicks, everyone wanted to cast Meg. She was by far one of the most successful actresses in the 1990s and early 2000s because of this. That being said, Meg Ryan suddenly disappeared from Hollywood after a single role as a school teacher in a racy R-rated film ended her career. Meg thinks that because people had pigeonholed her as this comedic and lighthearted actress, they were almost appalled watching her act in anything that wasn't that good girl archetype. She was shocked at the vicious reactions that she received for being naked in one of the scenes, and thus being in the public eye suddenly made her feel isolated. Ryan was 41 at the time of the film's release, and the nudity just wasn't that big of a deal to her, but nonetheless, she disappeared from Hollywood. In at number 8, Rick Moranis. Back in 1980, Rick Moranis was just starting out in his career. He landed a role in the Canadian comedy series called SCTV, working alongside comedy legends like Harold Ramis, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, and John Candy, many of whom Rick would go on to work with in the future. The reason for Rick disappearing from Hollywood is actually quite sad. After his wife Anne passed away from breast cancer in 1997, he immediately had to shift his focus on raising their 2 children. In all of these interviews that he did much later, Rick mainly stayed very nonchalant about his choice to leave Hollywood to become a stay-at-home dad. During an interview with The Hollywood Reporter in 2015, he said, "I was working with really interesting people, wonderful people. I went from that to being at home with a couple of little kids, which is a very different lifestyle, but it was important to me. I have absolutely no regrets whatsoever. My life is wonderful." Although he did sort of leave Hollywood, the comedian hasn't stopped working. He's almost exclusively done voiceover work from 1997 to 2006. In at number 7, Mike Myers. To me, Mike Myers will always be my comedy idol. I mean, his performances in Shrek, Wayne's World, and Austin Powers were so funny and over the top that I still laugh at them in 2020. Myers was also extremely popular as well during his time with Saturday Night Live, for which a sketch of his was even transformed into the movie Wayne's World. His troubles with Hollywood though started way back in the year 2000 when he signed on to another film also inspired by an SNL skit called Sprockets. Yes, that was the name. Halfway through production, the comedian left citing issues with the script. Him bailing on this production though resulted in 2 lawsuits from Universal Studios, one of which was for $30 million. He then went on to do that terrible live action version of Cat in the Hat, which absolutely tanked in the box office. The real reason he disappeared from Hollywood though was to put more focus on being a husband and a father. In at number 6, his comedy duo buddy, Dana Carvey. Best known for his work as a cast member on SNL as well, and of course Garth from Wayne's World. Dana is an actor, stand-up comedian, and excellent impressionist. Dana Carvey has audiences cracking up at his George Bush impression and his church lady character during 7 seasons of Saturday Night Live, and created unforgettable catchphrases with Mike Myers in 2 Wayne's World movies. But at the peak of his career in the late 1990s, Carvey stepped away to raise his 2 sons Dex and Thomas with his wife Paula since 1983. While speaking with People magazine, Carvey spoke about his decision to leave Hollywood. In the interview, he said, "I have friends who get stressed about fading or not being as hot. I never quite engaged that. I have a lot of drive to try to be the best I can be, have people be blown away by what I do and repeating it. But the other side of me is fine wherever I am." He also was experiencing a lot of health complications during the late 90s, which caused him to undergo 4 angioplasties in less than a year, followed up with a double bypass surgery. However, his health is tip-top magoo now, and his focus seems to be shifting back to stand-up comedy. Actually, he put out a great stand-up comedy hour on Netflix. Check that out.
Halfway number 5, Dylan Sprouse. After becoming Disney stars, Cole and his brother Dylan stepped away from the spotlight. However, Cole decided to return and is now one of the stars of the hit show Riverdale. Dylan has decided to stay out of acting and decided to attend college. He attended NYU from 2011 to 2015, where he studied video game design. Then after started All Wise Meadery. In an interview with Vanity Fair in 2018, Dylan stated, quote, "After graduating, I realized that it's something I really love doing, and it's also a big business opportunity. I was thinking about ways to invest my money, and I thought, well, if there's anything to invest your money in, alcohol is not a bad thing to invest in." Dylan has started a handful of indie short films since, but we don't expect him to come back into the spotlight anytime soon. In at number 4, Nikki Blonsky. Nikki Blonsky's rise to stardom is such a crazy story it could be the plot of a movie. In 2007, she was scooping ice cream in Cold Stone Creamery when she learned that she'd been cast in the role of Tracy Turnblad in the cinematic reboot of Hairspray, after applying to an open casting call. But after the breakout role, her career took a dive. Over the years, as Blonsky's acting roles have become fewer and farther between, rumors have circulated from time to time about what she does to make money. Some photos went viral of her sweeping up at a hair salon, which prompted her to respond on Twitter saying, quote, "It's true, I'm working at Superstar Salon as a makeup artist. And more, I am proud to be working and helping pay bills, but I'll never lose sight of my dreams." So it seems like she's still working towards her dreams, but for now, she's out of the spotlight. In at number 3, Kevin Jonas. Kevin Jonas is of course the older brother of the Jonas Brothers. But although Kevin Jonas rose to stardom during his time as a performer with his brothers, after the band broke up in 2013, Jonas focused on creating apps and other business ventures with his fortune from his Jobo days. He created an app called You'd, which showed nearby restaurants serving the type of food that you picked from a menu. He also started Jonas Warner, a real estate development and construction company that he established soon after the breakup of the band. In addition, Kevin is the co-CEO of The Blue Market. It's a business venture mainly focused on communication and pushing them to be actively visible in social media and gain a following. And although it seems that Kevin would prefer a life away from the spotlight, the band is such a staple in the hearts of young people everywhere, including myself. The band has gotten back together and recently made music. So it seems that Kevin's back in the spotlight for now, but not sure if that could change again in the future. In at number 2, George Clooney. George Clooney has slowly started to drift away from acting, and that's on purpose. The star's opened up in the past about his thoughts of quitting acting for good, and he's spoken about the fact that he doesn't like fame, saying in an interview, quote, "What's the guy in the big house on the hill got to complain about? The truth is, the big house on the hill is isolating. There's no other way to say it. There are restrictions to this kind of fame. I haven't walked in Central Park for 15 years. I'd like to, you know?" Then in 2017, he said that he was seriously thinking of quitting acting, saying, quote, "Look, I acted for a long time and I'm 56. I'm not the guy that gets the girl anymore." He also added that he no longer needs to act to make money, as he sold his tequila company Casamigos for $1 billion. At the time, he had not acted in a movie since 2016, however, he did star in the 2020 film Midnight Sky, but that could potentially be his last movie. In at number 1, Taylor Momsen. Gossip Girl character and former child star Taylor Momsen began her transition out of Hollywood while she was still a series regular on the CW's teen soap Gossip Girl, which explains why Momsen looks so different at the end compared to the start of the show. Taylor formally announced that she had quit acting in 2011 to focus on her punk rock career with her band The Pretty Reckless. 9 years later, in 2020, The Pretty Reckless are still rocking on and preparing for a release of their 4th album. True to her word, Taylor has not returned to acting in any capacity. Momsen told the Daily Beast in 2014, quote, "When I got to a place where I realized I was in control of my own life and had found the right band and everything was coming to fruition, it wasn't even a question. I was going to quit my day job. I came to set every day with an effing guitar. But I'm very lucky the producers were nice enough to write me out, allow me to tour and pursue my passion." And honestly, good for her for chasing her dreams.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Jennifer Lawrence. If you are a fan of the actress, then you might be wondering where she has been lately. She hasn't appeared as a lead in a film since 2018, and there was a time when she was appearing in most of them. Turns out she didn't disappear on purpose or have some epic plan to leave Hollywood, but her presence has not been made known and she hasn't been around much in the last few years. Even before the coronavirus pandemic started, Jennifer had been quarantining in her own little world, it seemed. Turns out she took some time off from acting and got married, which was completely private. She started dating her now husband, Cook Moranis, in 2018, and their wedding was on October 19th, 2019. The whole thing was kept as private as possible, and some would say her priorities were changed due to this new chapter in her life. But some good news, she is set to return to some movies next year. She signed on to a movie called Don't Look Up, which is now delayed until 2021, so it might just be her big comeback. Here's hoping, I really like her. Up next, number 9 is Macaulay Culkin. Probably one of the biggest examples of a celebrity disappearing from the Hollywood limelight. During the 90s, he was a child star that rose above the rest, and it seemed like his future in the industry was very bright. But he suddenly disappeared, and people were wondering what happened to the most famous kid on earth. In 1994, he had 3 big movies that year, and all of them bombed at the box office, which would definitely have an impact on a 14-year-old actor trying to make it big. He officially took his exit from the industry in 1995 during a difficult time in his personal life. His parents decided to separate, and they were facing a very vicious custody battle over Macaulay and his siblings. In the end, reports say his mother got full custody, and he was estranged from his father ever since. We didn't see him in movies for many years, and anytime the paparazzi found him, the articles reported that he was struggling with a drug addiction. It wasn't until recent years that he has resurfaced and is taking on smaller projects, but on his own terms. Swiping the number 8 spot is Meg Ryan. For a long time, she was known as America's sweetheart after taking over the 90s with her beauty and talent. After her first movie role in 1981, she kept getting job offers to a point where she had to drop out of college to focus on her film career. She was starring in some of the biggest rom-coms to this date, but then just disappeared in the early 2000s. Some people thought it may have to do with the scandal in which she was caught cheating on Dennis Quaid with Russell Crowe. Almost a decade after the scandal, she revealed that she was treated like the Scarlet Woman after that scandal happened, and revealed that Dennis had been dating other women too during their relationship. She also admitted that leaving Hollywood was actually a dream. During an interview, she said, "I have gotten what I guess I secretly wanted to do, be totally under the radar and live my life." Meg had no roles from 2009 to 2015, but in recent times you may see her in paparazzi photos around New York or some events because she will always be Meg Ryan. During her time away, she completely reconstructed her face though, so she may not be as recognizable as when you saw her last. Up next, number 7 is Jonathan Taylor Thomas, another heartthrob from the 90s who just disappeared from the industry randomly. He's mostly known for his role on the hit TV show Home Improvement, but he was winning over hearts ever since he performed the voice of young Simba in The Lion King. But when he reached his late teens, he quit Home Improvement, did a couple indie films, and then just vanished completely. A very bold move for someone who was just at the height of their career and probably had a long, successful one ahead of them. He is now 39 years old and hasn't walked a red carpet in over 15 years. So where did he go and what is he even up to? Turns out that he loved acting but hated the fame and attention being directed at his personal life. So he left and decided to focus on his studies instead. At 19 years old, he enrolled at Harvard University, where he spent 2 years studying philosophy and history. A few years ago though, he did make an appearance in Last Man Standing, where he was reunited with Tim Allen, who actually played his dad in Home Improvement. But he did it just for fun and says that he enjoys his life outside of Hollywood. Rolling into number 6 is Rachel Platten. The singer skyrocketed into fame with her hit single Fight Song. She grew a huge fan base rather quickly, and one fan even made it on The Ellen Show after she did an emotional cover to the song Fight Song. Her music career was gaining a ton of success, and she's even gone on some pretty epic tours. But in recent times, she's gone quiet and has not been putting out new music. She opened up about her reasoning in 2019, saying that after having a baby, she struggled with postpartum anxiety. She opened up about it in a lengthy Instagram post where she said that even when she was on tour, she was crying in bathrooms some days because the anxiety was so difficult. So once the tour was done, she poured her heart and soul into being a new mom and less on the Hollywood life as a singer. But she did recently pop up on TikTok and said that she's creating new music and is hoping to be back into it soon. Halfway through, at number 5 is Connie Converse. She was arguably the first modern singer-songwriter in the mid-1950s who was constantly creating intimate songs on her acoustic guitar. Her music only got huge recognition after her mysterious disappearance back in 1974. Within days after her 50th birthday, she sent letters to her family and friends telling them she wanted to make a fresh start. She packed up all her stuff, got in her Volkswagen Beetle, and left her Michigan home, and she has not been seen ever since. Her family believed that she took her own life and suggested she may have drove her car into a lake. 40 years after her disappearance, a New York-based audio engineer, Dan Zula, heard one of her songs on the radio and combined some of her recordings into an album called How Sad, How Lovely. He released it in 2009 and it ended up going viral on Spotify. There have even been plays written and performed outlining her life and her music. Up next, number 4 is Rico Harris. The basketball player had the opportunity to play for the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters for a short period, but after his basketball career ended, he vanished. He relocated to Seattle back in 2014 and went missing after traveling to California to spend some time with his family. His girlfriend said that he stayed in California for only a day and stayed in communication while he was there. He let her know that he was near Sacramento getting some gas, and a few hours after that, he texted her and apologized for missing one of her calls. That was the last time his girlfriend heard from him. He never returned home, and when they started to search for him, they found his car abandoned in a Yolo County park. After countless hours, there was no trace of him, and to this day, he has not been found. In our third spot is Harold Holt. His disappearance was one of the largest search operations in Australian history because it's not a common thing for your prime minister to just disappear without a trace. It was on December 17, 1967, a Sunday morning, when he decided to go swimming at Cheviot Beach with his neighbor and her daughter and two friends. His neighbor said that the water just engulfed him out of nowhere and that he was suddenly just gone. The sudden disappearance during the Cold War became a national crisis. The search began immediately. Within the first 2 hours of his disappearance, there were dozens of search team members in the area. Though the obvious solution would be that he drowned, authorities said his body would have been found or even swept to Port Phillip Bay. There have always been conspiracy theories following this disappearance because he was a confident swimmer and a scuba diver. Some people think he was assassinated by the CIA or even abducted by a Chinese submarine operating in the waters of that beach that day. Taking over our number 2 spot is Joe Pichler. He was a successful child actor but randomly disappeared when he was just 18 years old, and it still remains a mystery to this day. His most famous role was in the 3rd and 4th Beethoven movies, and it looked like he had a long career ahead of him. But on January 5th, 2006, his brother went to his apartment and saw the front door was unlocked, his TV was on, but Joe was nowhere to be seen. The evening of his disappearance, he spent the evening at a friend's house drinking beer and playing cards. Early the next morning, he left in his silver Toyota Corolla, apparently to make his way home. One of his friends at the party said everything seemed fine with him. His car was found on January 9th, abandoned behind a Mexican restaurant in the area. His cell phone and other belongings were left untouched inside the vehicle. His mom has claimed the local police actually botched his investigation and said most of the evidence was lost. His case still remains open to this day. In the number 1 spot is Amelia Earhart. She is probably the most famous missing person in history, and it's likely you know her story very well. Her exploits into flying made her very well known, and on top of being a pilot, she was also an author, fashion designer, and a magazine editor. She and her navigator, Fred Noonan, decided to embark on a trip around the world back in 1937. But on July 2nd, Amelia sent out a radio message asking for help because they were dangerously low on fuel over the Pacific Ocean. The US Coast Guard sent help, but they were unable to locate the plane. The plane was never found, and neither were their bodies. There have been numerous theories about what happened to them. The most common belief is that her plane ran out of fuel and that they had no choice but to ditch into the Pacific Ocean, and that they sank after the crash.